We initiate the God's Gaze protocol by acknowledging that the modern shopping mall, or any high-density public space, is not a marketplace. It is a bioenergy farm. The architects of these spaces, the literal ones and the social engineers, have designed them to induce a state of hypnotic consumption in the masses. When you walk into a mall, you are entering a dopamine casino where the air is pumped with synthetic scents, the lighting is calibrated to disrupt your circadian rhythm, and the noise floor is engineered to create a low-level anxiety that can only be relieved by spending money. The crowd you see shuffling through the corridors is not a collection of individuals. It is a biomass. It is a collective organism operating on the lowest common denominator of consciousness. We call them meat, not to be cruel, but to be clinically accurate regarding their level of cognitive agency. They are reacting to stimuli, not originating thought. The soft man walks into this environment and immediately syncs with it. His mirror neurons, the empathy hardware in the brain, scan the faces of the herd. He sees their stress, their vacant stares, their slumped posture, and his brain involuntarily mimics it. He slows his walk to match their shuffle. He absorbs their poverty vibration. Within 20 minutes, he feels drained, irritable, and brain fog. He has been infected. The architect enters this space in a hazmat suit of consciousness. He employs the God's gaze. This is a specific optical and psychological setting where you observe the crowd from a position of vertical detachment. You see them, but you do not perceive them as peers. You perceive them as environmental variables, similar to trees, rocks, or traffic cones. You observe the mechanics of the simulation without becoming part of the code. This prevents the vibrational contagion. You are in the world, but not of it. You must understand the physics of entrainment. In physics, entrainment is the process where two vibrating bodies lock into phase so they vibrate in harmony. A strong vibration will cause a weak vibration to sync up with it. The crowd is a massive, sluggish, low-frequency wave. It vibrates at the frequency of consumer trance, a mix of desire, insecurity, and lethargy. If your personal frequency, your state, is not nuclear, the sheer mass of the crowd will pull you down into their rhythm. You will start walking like them. You will start looking at the shiny objects like them. To resist this, you must engage active repulsion. You do not blend in. You increase your velocity. The first rule of the God's gaze is speed variance. The meat moves at a drift. The predator moves on a vector. You walk 20% faster than the flow of traffic. This speed difference creates a physical boundary. It makes it impossible to sync. When you move with violent purpose, the crowd parts. This is the Red Sea effect. Humans have a peripheral instinct to avoid fast-moving objects. When you project your trajectory with your eyes and your pace, the low-ranked players subconsciously step out of your way. This reinforces your dominance loop. You are the hammer, they are the water. You do not wait for them to move. You assume they will move, and they do. This preserves your energy. The soft man stops, waits, says excuse me, and navigates around the obstacles. The architect cuts through them like a laser, protected by the shield of his own momentum. Let us analyze the optical discipline of the God's gaze. The soft man makes eye contact. He seeks connection. He looks at the faces of the passers-by. This is a fatal error. The eyes are the port for data transfer. When you lock eyes with a zombie, a chemically sedated, debt-ridden, cortisol-soaked consumer, you open a temporary bridge. For a split second, your brain simulates their emotional state to understand it. In that split second, you download a packet of their misery. Do this 100 times in a mall, and you leave feeling suicidal. The architect utilizes the 1,000-yard stare, or soft focus. You look through the people, not at them. You focus on the destination point 50 yards ahead. You use your peripheral vision to track the meat solely for collision avoidance, the same way a fighter pilot tracks debris. You dehumanize the interaction to save your humanity. You do not judge them. Judgment is an attachment. You simply register them as non-player characters, NPCs. They are background animations. By refusing to acknowledge their individual humanity in that moment, you refuse to accept their emotional baggage. You are the director of the movie, and they are just extras. The director does not ask the extra how his day is going. The director is focused on the scene. This clinical dissociation is the only way to navigate the sewer without getting shit on your boots. We must then address the oral defense system. The mall is filled with sonic weapons, pop music with repetitive hooks, crying children, mindless chatter. These sounds are designed to lower your IQ. The architect never enters the hive without audio armor. Noise-canceling headphones are mandatory, but you do not just block the noise. You replace it with high-frequency programming. You listen to white noise, classical music, or aggressive funk/techno, anything that has a structured, high-energy rhythm. You are imposing your own soundtrack onto the reality. When you walk through a chaotic crowd while listening to orderly, powerful audio, you create a cinematic detachment. You feel like you're watching a movie on a screen. The people become silent actors. This separation allows you to observe without feeling. You see the mother screaming at her child, but you don't hear the scream. You see the stress, but you don't feel the spike. You remain the observer. This protects your cortisol levels. You are carrying your own atmosphere, your own weather system inside the headphones. You are a submarine in the ocean. The pressure is all around you, but you are dry and pressurized on the inside. We must dig deeper into the biofield mechanics. Science calls this the electromagnetic field of the heart. The HeartMath Institute has proven that the heart emits a measurable magnetic field that extends several feet outside the body. This field carries emotional information. The crowd creates a smog of incoherent feels: anxiety, greed, exhaustion. To protect yourself, you must generate a coherent field. This is done through heart-focused breathing. Even while walking, you focus on your chest. You breathe rhythmically. You generate a feeling of amused superiority or cold determination. You visualize a glass wall around your body. This sounds esoteric, but it is psychological warfare. When you visualize the shield, your body language changes. You close off. You tighten your core. You tuck your chin. This closed circuit prevents energy leakage. The soft man is an open circuit. He is porous. He absorbs everything. The architect is a diamond, hard, reflective, and impenetrable. You bounce the vibrations off you. You treat the environment as hostile territory. You are behind enemy lines. You do not fraternize with the enemy. You execute the mission, buy the item, meet the contact, and you extract. Let us analyze the verticality of the mindset. Why God's gaze? Because God is above. To survive the crowd, you must mentally position yourself above it. You look at the consumer behavior as a scientist looking at ants. Look at them rushing for the sale. Look at them eating the poison sugar. Look at them seeking validation. This internal monologue of analysis replaces the monologue of reaction. When you analyze, you're using the prefrontal cortex, logic. When you react, you're using the amygdala, emotion. The prefrontal cortex is your shield. By turning the experience into a sociological study, you detach from the pain of it. You become fascinated by the horror of the mall rather than depressed by it. You say, this is an incredible display of late-stage capitalism and biological decay. You laugh internally. The internal chuckle is the ultimate vibration of the architect. It signifies that you are untouched. You find the chaos amusing, not stressful. This is the Joker energy, the ability to smile at the burning world because you know you are fireproof. We must also confront the energy vampire dynamic. The crowd is thirsty. They are energy deficient. When they see a high-energy male, the architect, they subconsciously want to feed. They will try to impede you. They will walk slow in front of you. They will bump into you. They will ask you for the time. These are microaggressions designed to steal your attention. Attention is energy. The architect gives zero attention. If someone bumps you, you do not get angry. That is giving energy. You do not apologize. That is submitting energy. You keep moving. You are a ghost. You flow around the rock. You treat them like turbulence. You do not negotiate with turbulence. You maintain emotional Teflon. Nothing sticks. If you engage, you lose. If you stop to argue with a fool in the food court, you have lowered your vibration to his level, and he will beat you with experience. You must be ruthless with your focus. Your focus is the most expensive asset you possess. Do not spend it on people who cannot afford to pay you back. Finally, we arrive at the sanctuary protocol. After you exit the kill zone, the mall/crowd, you must perform a decontamination ritual. You have been exposed to radiation. You get to your car or your home and you sit in silence for 2 minutes. You reset the breath. You visualize the gray slime of the crowd sliding off your aura. You reclaim your sovereignty. You remind yourself, I am not them. I am the architect. You check your mental inventory. Did I pick up any anxiety? Did I pick up any desire for useless products? If yes, you purge it immediately. You recognize it as a foreign pathogen. The soft man takes them all home with him. He stays anxious for hours. The architect leaves the mall at the door. He treats the crowd as a training ground for his focus. If you can maintain Zen in a Black Friday riot, you can maintain Zen in a board meeting. If you can see the meat without hating them, but without becoming them, you have mastered the path of the lotus, blooming in the mud without getting dirty. You are the observer. You are the ghost. You are the god in the machine. See everything, feel nothing, take what you need, and vanish. Getty Images. Otkrit. We advance now to the kinetic execution of the God's Gaze protocol. Phase 1 was the internal calibration of the mindset. Phase 2 is the physical navigation of the bio-sludge. You must understand that a crowd behaves exactly like a fluid. It follows the laws of hydrodynamics. It seeks the path of least resistance. The soft man acts like a leaf in the river. He spins. He gets caught in the eddies. He gets stuck behind the slow-moving debris. The architect acts like a hydrodynamic projectile. You must master the vector of intention. When you walk through a crowded space, you do not look at the gaps in the crowd. You look at the target beyond the crowd. Your eyes lock onto a point 50 feet away. away, above the heads of the masses. You project a laser beam of will from your pineal gland to that destination. This creates a psychological bow wave. The humans in front of you, even if they are looking at their phones, will feel the pressure of your approach. Their peripheral vision detects a large object moving with constant velocity and zero hesitation. Their reptile brain calculates a collision trajectory and sends a command to their legs. Move. They part. This is not magic. It is physics. The crowd senses momentum. The soft man has no momentum. He hesitates. He stutters. This signals to the herd that he is the one who will yield. The moment you yield, you lose. You have accepted their frame. The architect never breaks stride. You adjust your angle slightly, like a shark adjusting a fin, but the velocity remains constant. You slice through the noise. We must then operationalize the auditory firewall. The mall, the airport, the street, these are sonic war zones. They are filled with incoherent frequencies, the crying baby, the pop music, the sales pitch. These are aggressive intrusions into your cognitive workspace. If you enter these zones naked, without ear protection, your brain is forced to process thousands of irrelevant data points. This burns glucose. This creates decision fatigue before you have even made a decision. The architect wears noise-cancelling headphones as a tactical helmet, but it is not enough to block the noise. You must entrain the brain. You play brown noise or binaural beats, 40 Hz gamma waves, or aggressive, non-lyrical music. This creates a rhythmic shield. You walk to the beat of your own soundtrack. This decouples you from the frantic, irregular rhythm of the crowd. The crowd moves in a staccato, anxious rhythm. You move in a legato, powerful rhythm. This rhythmic dissonance makes you invisible to them. You are vibrating at a different pitch. The kiosk seller trying to sell you dead sea salt will not even try to stop you. He looks at you and sees a man who is locked in. He knows instinctively that you are not a prospect. You are a force of nature. You have removed the hook points that parasites use to latch onto. We must dig deeper into the peripheral defense system. The soft man uses foveal vision, direct focus, to scan the crowd. This is exhausting. It triggers the facial recognition software in the brain. The architect relies on peripheral vision, rod cells. Rod cells are motion detectors. They are ancient. They do not trigger emotions, they trigger reactions. You keep your head still, chin parallel to the floor, and you let the data stream in from the sides. You see the movement of the crowd as flow patterns, not as people. You see gaps, you see obstacles. You navigate like a bat using sonar. This prevents eye contact capture. The moment you make eye contact with a beggar, a promoter, or a confused tourist, you have signed a micro-contract. You have acknowledged their existence. Now you are socially obligated to interact. The architect refuses to sign the contract. You look past them. If someone steps in front of you, you do not stop. You slide. You use the Aikido pass. You rotate your shoulders slightly to deflect their energy and keep moving. You do not stop. Stopping is death. Stopping signals that you are available to be harvested. We must also confront the vibrational hygiene of the transaction. You will eventually have to interact with a human to buy your coffee or your clothes. This is the danger zone. The cashier is likely bored, miserable, and radiating low-frequency apathy. The soft man tries to cheer her up. He engages in small talk. He tries to fix the vibe. This is a trap. You are pouring your high-octane energy into a black hole. You will leave that interaction drained and she will remain miserable. The architect executes the surgical transaction. You are polite but efficient. You use command tones. Black coffee. Large. Thank you. You do not ask how are you unless you actually care, which you don't. You minimize the surface area of the interaction. You pay with a tap, speak. You take the item. You exit. You treat the interaction like a pit stop in Formula 1. The goal is not to make friends. The goal is to refuel and get back on the track. This sounds cold, but it is energy conservation. You have a finite amount of social battery. Save it for your tribe, your family, your business. Do not waste it on the NPCs of the simulation. Let us analyze the anti-mimicry protocol. Humans are herd animals. If everyone stops and looks up, you will stop and look up. If everyone starts running, you will run. This is the social contagion. In a panic situation, this kills you. In a consumer situation, this bankrupts you. When you see a line forming, your instinct is to join it. It must be good if everyone is waiting. The architect overrides this program. When you see a line, you feel repulsion. You go the other way. When you see a crowd gathering around a sale, you assume it is trash for the masses. You develop a contrarian reflex. If the herd is going left, you look right. This is where the opportunity is. This is where the space is. By physically moving against the grain of the crowd, you reinforce your psychological sovereignty. You are telling your body, I'm not one of them. I make my own path. This simple act of walking upstream while everyone walks downstream is a powerful affirmation of the wolf mindset. We must then address the retail therapy illusion. The crowd is in the mall to feel better. They are buying things to fill a hole in their soul. They are grazing. The architect enters the mall on a hunter-killer mission. You know exactly what you want before you enter the building. You have a target. You enter. You acquire the target. You extract. You do not browse. Browsing is for cows. Browsing opens you up to suggestion. The mall is designed to distract you. The layout is a maze. The mirrors are placed to make you stop. The architect wears mental blinders. You do not look at the displays. You do not touch the items you don't need. Touching creates ownership bias, endowment effect. Once you hold the shoe, you want the shoe. Keep your hands in your pockets. Do not touch the bait. You execute the mission with military precision. This saves your wallet, but more importantly, it saves your mind from the wanting sickness, the constant itching desire for more stuff that plagues the soft man. We must also discuss the parking lot transition. The car is your decompression chamber. The transition from the high-stimulation mall to the car is critical. The soft man gets in the car, checks his phone, looks at the receipt, and replays the stress of the crowd. He lets the mall vibe linger. The architect slams the door and executes an immediate state break. You sit in silence for 30 seconds. You breathe. You visualize the static of the crowd falling off your aura. You turn the ignition. You put on your own music. You reclaim the territory. You drive away not as a consumer who just spent money, but as an operator who just completed a supply run. You reframe the narrative. You were not shopping. You were resupplying. This subtle shift keeps you in the active, masculine frame of the provider/hunter, rather than the passive, feminine frame of the gatherer/spender. Finally, we arrive at the metaphysics of the ghost. The ultimate goal is to be in the crowd, but not of the crowd. To be a ghost in the machine. The ghost observes everything, but is touched by nothing. You see the greed, the vanity, the despair, and you simply witness it. You do not judge it with anger, which is an attachment. You judge it with detached curiosity. You see the meat operating on their loops. You see the matrix rendering its code, and you smile because you know the secret. You know that you can step out of the game whenever you want. You are only visiting the zoo. You do not live in the cage. This realization gives you the God's gaze. You look down from the mountain of your own consciousness. You see the ants marching. You wish them well, but you do not march with them. You move through the density with the lightness of a spirit. You are untouched. You are clean. You are free. This is the vibration that makes the crowd part. They feel the presence of a free man, and in their slavery, they instinctively step aside to let the king pass.